Hey, it's Daniel, Wine Lovers 411. We're here with Nick, Mr. Winemaker Extraordinaire, and appreciate a few minutes that you've given us. Kind of wanted to talk to you specific about summertime. Obviously, didn't take a long time for you to figure out that it's summertime in Texas, and we're having a feature that we're, talking about summertime wines, and want to see maybe what your favorite type of wine is, and maybe get a little bit of insight from you as to what's your favorite type of summer wine?
Whatever's open, Daniel. I mean, that's what summer's all about, is just making sure that you've got a wine that's like so easy to go back and have that second glass without a lot of alcohol, without a lot of heavy weight punch that can make it very stressful on the palate. So if you can find Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc, or even in some cases a Chardonnay, which is a little bit higher in acid, a little bit leaner, you can certainly get that bright feel. And for me, I make 2 Sauvignon Blancs based on that style. I make Forefathers, which comes from the Brancott side of the Marlborough appellation in New Zealand, where we have a little bit higher ripeness. It's a bit more citrusy, limey, grapefruity, and then we leave a little bit of residual CO2 in there, just so we get that little factor that'll keep the wine a little bit tighter without having to use acid. And of course, acid also can wear out the mouth. The other wine I make is Boulder Bank, and Boulder Bank is a Sauvignon Blanc from the same appellation, Daniel, but it's actually from an area that's below sea level, so quite a different style of wine. You get a little bit more sweaty and asparagus sort of aromas, and a bit more grassy. And in this wine, which we produce with even lower alcohol, we don't have to use that CO2 because the acid is actually naturally there, and that'll keep that wine bright enough, firm enough.
Excellent. One of the things I tasted, I did get a chance to taste both of these, and I was extremely impressed in the sense that New Zealand wines, and it didn't scream grapefruit or citrus. It didn't overpower it. I really like the fact that it had that undertone, but at the same time you got some really good minerality to it, and sometimes that in-your-face citrus grapefruit kind of steals everything else away, and I didn't see that in these wines. Is there a different style that you're going after?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not making wine for the Brits. I mean, in Europe they would probably look for more of a wine that's in-your-face citrus and grapefruit, whereas I'm going to try and make it with a little bit more exposure, so I don't keep the canopy fully covered. I allow a little bit of sunlight onto the cluster, and that removes a bit of that, what we call pyrazine, which is the green, spicy character in the wine. So we can lower that grapefruit dominant to bring it back into balance with everything else that's going on down there. The other varietals, I really enjoy drinking Pinot Grigio, as long as it's a little bit more steely. I think sometimes too many Pinot Grigios, no offense to the Italians, but some of them tend to be a little bit too bright for me, a little higher in alcohol, and then they tend to be a little bit too sweaty. And then Viognier, I find Viognier a really good varietal for the summer. You get a really good Viognier is like drinking, you sort of get a faint melony muscatty aroma, but in the mouth you almost get that Pinot Grigio character. Another interesting varietal to try out of Argentina is a Torrontés. Torrontés has a Viognier smell, so again a little bit more of that floralness, but again in the mouth quite zippy and quite bright, probably more similar to Sauvignon Blanc than any other varietal. So there's a couple of other ones to play around with.
Cool. Anything, I'm sure you're biased, anything that's like your favorite? I really enjoy a good Viognier. Texas actually makes decent Viogniers. We make some good Viogniers, but anything that you kind of...
To me, Daniel, it's not about what my favorite wine today... I mean, you could give me 10 wines and I'll be able to pick my favorite one, but to me, wine is not about a horse race. It's about where you're eating, who you're with, what you're doing, and why you're there. And I always go back to one of my first times. As you know, Daniel, I make wine in 7 countries, and one of those countries I made wine in is Portugal. And back in '94, when I first went over with Roses to make still wine for them, if you hang out with winemakers in Portugal, it's 3 ports for breakfast, 3 ports for lunch, 3 ports for dinner, and on day 3, and you're sitting out in the sun, it's 114 degrees, and food in Portugal is not like food in Argentina or Chile. I mean, eating food in Portugal is a struggle, and one of the big things they have is this thing called a barnacle, which is about this long, and you got to get a skewer, and you got to manipulate this thing out of this barnacle, and it takes you like half an hour, and you get half a morsel. to get this thing out. It's 117 degrees out, you're sweating and you're drinking port. So I said, you know, hey, I hate to ask you guys this, don't be offended, but I'd really like a glass of white wine. And, well, we don't really make white wine here, Nick, blah, 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 blah. So the waitress comes out and she gives me this glass and she fills it right up to the top. And as I said, I'm still working my barnacle, it's really hot. Condensation's pouring off this glass, so I just pick it up and go, and I'm like, holy cow, you know, what was that? There's so much acid and CO2 in that wine. The roof of my mouth was gone, the enamel on my teeth is gone, but my whole mouth is like puckered, and it's like, am I thirsty or hungry? And that's the key about drinking great white wine. Can I drink that second glass without thinking about it? Am I going to continue to be thirsty? And is that wine going to satisfy that saliva and everything else that's poured up in your mouth? Just anticipating the next sip of wine, you know, and that's really what's cool and unique about white wines in the summer.
Well, I think you got it on these because I was wanting another glass when I tried the first one.
Thanks, man.
Without even
Appreciate
thinking
it.
of it. So,